new venue, a new route and new surroundings for race 2 of the 2007 ABSA Off-Road Championship, and this was, as always, due to be fast, rough, tough and testing to the nth degree. Hluhluwe in KwaZulu-Natal, known as the Elephant Coast, was ready to host the big battle. To get the pulses racing, the expo, which took place in Mpangeni on the day before the prologue, attracted enthusiasts from as far afield as Swaziland, Vryheid and Pongola, and they enjoyed rubbing shoulders with the legends of the sport and to see the battle-ready cars close up. The Hluhluwe airstrip just outside the town was to be the headquarters for the first day's prologue, and then the race proper over 400 kilometers, and hosted the 85 cars in 2 categories, the special vehicles and the production cars. After the pipe opener in Darling in the Western Cape, it left Nissan Motorsport manager Glenn Hall deep in thought. Why, we have no idea. He was again sitting pretty with stalwart Hluhluwe starting on a winning note. In the Toyota camp, there was some concern as the new SP Class entry Hilux had not arrived, but driver Mark Ronier was still confident.
I think, again, we did a lot of testing leading up to the race, hoping to develop for the new vehicle that would be coming for this event, and the guys have done a fair amount of work, and I think it's all due to them. We pushed very hard on the event itself, and we really tried hard, so yeah, it paid off in the end. It was a fair result. Ultimately, we still like to take the #1 flag, but that's going to come with time.
However, they were not able to start the prologue. In the Ford camp, spirits were high too. They always start in their local race in KZN and were hoping for more of the same.
I have to smile to myself. I see in the program home ground advantage for us, but it's hardly home. Home's 3.5 hours away, but it's always nice to be, it's not far from home, so it's great to be racing here with people that we know and supporters that we know. I think it's going to be interesting. The little bit I've seen looks like it might be quite quick. But in saying that, I think there's a lot of sand. It looks like there's a lot of trees that we're going to go through as well. So I think it'll be tricky. I think there'll be some things to catch us out, some tree stumps and things like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. A new venue, to come to somewhere new. It's always great. It's exciting. But in saying that, Sugarbelt was also good. It's been a fantastic place for me. I've sort of grown up there since I was a kid. So I miss Sugarbelt, but at the same time, it's nice to come to a new venue.
Driving for the fire engine red team, Nissan's Norwegian adventurer Ivar Tollefsen has much bigger fish to fry.
It's very important to get through the prologue and to get through all the 3 laps. It's very important to get through all the races, get as much mileage as possible. The real goal is Dakar in January 2008 with this car.
And the prologue set for drizzly and cool weather was next on the agenda, and for most it's a hell for leather time trial.
For the prologue, I think we're going to have to go quite fast. I think everybody's going to be pushing it, so if you take it easy, I think you're going to be left at the back of the field, so we're going to have to push a bit today.
In the production car class, there was a lot of chasing going on, and they were all after veteran and 4-time national champ Hluhluwe and his navigator Francois Jordan. They won their 21st national championship race since 2001 when they beat the field comfortably in the Western Cape. In the special vehicle class, Shamir Variawa was starting to look like a contender in his total porter, but for him it was all about the route and the surrounds.
The strategy for today, I don't really know what type of terrain we can expect. The last time we did this sort of a race was the old Josini race, I think it was 8 years or 6 years ago. So if it's a similar terrain, it'll be nice. But if it's sugar canes and that, I'm not very fond of that type of terrain, but we'll try our best.
In the Adenko camp, there was some speculating about strategy, or maybe not.
Wel, baie mense sê jy moet van die begin af jou kalm vat. Ek weet nie, ons kom al die pad van die Kaap af om te kom wedrenne ry. So ons gaan van die begin af gaan. Ons gaan die terrein ry so vinnig as moontlik, so veilig as moontlik. En dan gaan ons sien waartoe dit gaan. Ja.
However, off-road racing is really all about marrying pace, preservation of the car and concentration by the crew. No one knows that better than Richard Carolyn, who's fond of racing here.
Well, we've raced up here before, but many years ago. It's actually a very nice area to race. It's a bit more open than it was down at Eston. It's not as tight. A bit more forest section, as I remember, and we used to go up into the hills. So it's a good area to race. We're looking forward to it. Hopefully we don't have another engine problem as we did in the first race. We've replaced the motor, so we're expecting, we've tested the car, everything's looking good, and with the weather being a bit overcast and a nice decent wind to blow the dust away, we're expecting to have a good race.
For the Super Slick Motorride team, it's all about being competitive and ready to race.
Well, hopefully we've got competitive drivers. We've got Alfie Cox, who's a legend and in his own right. So I think he's going to do very well this weekend. We were lucky enough to win the first event. So yeah, we're going to be going. It's a new race, it's new for everybody. We're definitely going to be giving it a full go. We've done the usual amount of preparation, and effort has gone into putting the cars together. So yeah, we're expecting a good event.
And after they won 2 in Darling, the Motorite lads had reason to be confident. They were well placed in the battle for the championship, which Cox and Testeja won so convincingly in 2006.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Overcoming all obstacles. Finance from ABSA. Going off the beaten track to find solutions.
And off the beaten track they would go too for the prologue over 40 Ks. This race is against the clock, and it's designed to compile the starting order for the next day's racing proper. So the faster you go over the short hop, the less traffic you have in front of you. Brandon Harkis and John Moore were off to a flying start.
Okay, at the bottom here, 200 meters, 100 meters, 90 left. 90 left here. Okay, straight ahead, keep to the right, keep straight, straight, straight.
Former national champions Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford in their Nissan Navara SP were off next and chasing hard. While defending SP champs Woolridge and his co-driver Kenny Schulthammer's Ford Ranger was sounding awesome. But trouble for Harkis and Moore early on.
Keep left here, keep left. Go straight back up.
Perhaps take, Johnny.
This is all right, bro.
If you're in car with someone for hours at a time, forgiveness comes easily. Foss and Pitchford, meanwhile, were clocking some fast intermediate times and were going well. With the Ford crew also slotting in nicely amongst the sugarcane. But the men who were setting things alight was Grobler and Jordan. The defending national champions were on a mission, and a quick one at that. Corbett with Rudy Balzai as his co-driver was also just a few seconds off the pace and keeping his foot flat. While the ever-consistent Manfred Schroeder and his nav Ward Huxtable in the second Barlow World Armstrong Absolute Ford Ranger was only 45 seconds off the pace set by Grobler. But the man who chased the hardest and the wildest was undoubtedly Bevan Berthold. Navigator Robin Houghton was holding on for dear life. For the De Bruins, Higo and Jaap, it was all or nothing. The McLaren XL dealer team Toyota was proving to be quick. Tollefson and his co-driver Quinn Evans have done the Dakar Rally successfully, but were still getting used to the South African conditions. Surprisingly, Chris Visser and Jaapie Baardnorst in their Castrol Toyota were off the pace by more than 3 minutes, but perhaps they were conserving the car for the 400 tough Ks ahead. Brothers Henry and Maurice Macken in the Ryobi Nissan were handily leading the Class D qualifiers. While newcomers Hein Wilman and his nav Ian Palmer and their Toyota were setting the pace in Class E. Another sibling pairing, Yuri and Andre Duplessis, were just 21 seconds behind the Zermattens in Class D. While the Barkhuizens, George and wife Sharon, were also 21 seconds behind in second place in Class E. Jannie Visser and Joks Leroux, the surprise package of 2006, were third, another 11 seconds behind, and the team Barbaspan Castrol Toyota was going smoothly. The Raconics team with Kutsia Labaskachny and Johan Gerber were third in class, 45 seconds behind the Duplessis. But a very popular win again went to Grobler and Jordan in the flying Nissan Navara in 28 minutes and 15 seconds, and that gave them just a 1-second margin over Berthold and Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. The battle lines were certainly drawn. If the production cars was anything to go by, the specials would let it rip, and indeed that was the case, as reigning national champions Alfie Cox and Henny ter Steege demonstrated. Their motorized-backed stablemate Evan Hutchison and his co-Achim Bergman were also in cruise control and steamed along, just 3 seconds behind their illustrious teammate Cox. Gary Berthold and Henry Costain in the big Atlas Copco was leaving the pits only to discover that their water pump belt had come off. That led to the car overheating and they had to slow down. They were 3 minutes back. For Terence Marsh and Pieter Groenewald in their National Mobile Regent Racing Gymco, there were no such problems and they steamed to 10th place in Class A. Variawa and Rousseau were doing exactly the same, but they were fast enough to take 4th after a thrilling drive in the Total Porter. The Rapsa bat of Nodis Alberts and Colin Hunter is always a thrill to watch, and they didn't disappoint, taking 8th overall and 5th in class. Another spectacular driver is Naim Musaji with Rehan Bodjana for company. The TTR Gymco powered to a sub-30-minute clocking and 6th in the A class. While Clint Gibson and Mike Brown in their absolute bat was next in class. The young Pineapples were probably stopping the growing process with all this rumble in the jungle going on, but that did not stop Class B leaders Johan and Etienne Besaidner to carry out their threats. They were going fast. Second in class was the Keymax outfit, the father and son combination, Jan and Hendrik Kraai, just 1 small second off the lead, but trouble for Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith in the JRE.
Just take a little bit there. Yeah, no, we out, Derek. We've got it. We need another road.
While an amateur photographer almost became a windshield for the Plastotech racecar of Richard Schilling and Chris Davies, they clinched the class lead despite the picture, just 31 seconds ahead of Nick Gosler and Richard Carolyn in the Kopenhagen Hotel Raceco. But no one could match the pace of the 2 motorized teams, Cox and ter Steege and Hutchison with Bergman. Only 14 seconds covered the top 5, a sign of some tight racing to come. Then it was time to repair, replace and recuperate to get ready for the racing through the hills and dales of the Hluhluwe region. And after an all-out time trial such as that, there can be a lot of work to be done to get the cars ready for more abuse. For Alfie Cox, it was a feather in the cap and a fillip to his confidence.
No, I think, you know, we've come to a different race, which is actually nice for everybody, but it's nice to win the time trial. I mean, Evan and Gary Berthold have been doing it, I think, for the last couple of races, and, you know, I've always wanted to do this time trial thing. I think I've only got 1 or 2 pole positions, but it's nice to win the time trial in a new area, and we felt good today. I mean, Henny did a fantastic job with the navigation. I think that's important. We missed 2 of the left turns, so we wasted, you know, a couple of seconds, but you know, having Evan behind and you know, at the moment I just think everything with the motorized bats are working well. I mean, you see our result in Cape Town, and but tomorrow's a long way. I mean, hopefully the cars are going to behave themselves like they have, but you know, I just think the package at the moment with motorized and these bats are just working fantastically well. And you know, when we are having fun driving the cars, that makes for a good package and I think for a good race.
The initiative to have a satellite tracking system installed in every vehicle has been a big breakthrough.
The most important thing to the competitor, I think, is the fact that the officials will know where we are at all stages. With regards to safety, should we have an accident or unfortunately go off the side of a cliff or a mountain, which as competitors every now and then you think of, you know, no one's going to be able to find you unless you left skid marks on the road showing where you went off. So that's the first and foremost. Is you know, we do a lot of high speeds and we go through some quite dangerous terrain. That's the first thing that we have is the safety aspect. You know, giving you that peace of mind that someone's watching over you. That same information translates into many different areas. At the same time, we're out in the middle of nowhere, often where there are no marshals or spectators or anything, and we rely on the guys' integrity basically to keep them on the route and not shortcut and make mistakes or whatever the case is. So whether someone is either taking a shortcut or possibly making a mistake, There's no discussion about it and where they went and what happened. We've got it all recorded. It's digital information. We know exactly where they went. We know exactly how long it took. So you can make the correct decision with regards to that mistake or whatever it was. We know exactly how much time was lost. So it's the usual story of information is king. We're going to sit with a huge amount of information at the end of a race, knowing exactly whether someone slowed down for a speed control area, should we be going through a village, or a simple rule of stopping for a road crossing. Sometimes we get to road crossings that are out in the middle of a bush, and that you don't necessarily have to slow down for. There may not be somebody there. So it's going to make it fair for everybody. We know that there's one big brother watching over all of us.
And while Big Brother watched, the race's crews and vehicles slept solidly through the night. At least that was the theory. But the next morning it would be racing at speed past some spectacular scenery and over the roughest terrain, which was due to test drivers, vehicles and crews to the limit and then beyond. As the last-minute adjustments were made and the last-minute coffee was consumed to settle the nerves, Grobler reflected back on yet another pole position.
Prologue went very well for us. The vehicle didn't have any hiccup. We went quite quick. We knew that we had to start in the front. It's always good to start in the front, especially if there's dust. I don't know if there's going to be dust today. But we're leading the production cars, and that's by only 1 second, but that's enough to lead, and kick some dust up for the other guys, And yeah, it's also good to have the other two sandmasters probably ahead of you clearing the road, and then we will see how it goes through the day on the second and third loop, and we're going to try and win.
And when Grobler says that, he means it. The tension in the paddock was palpable, as the teams really did not know what to expect from this unknown route. Some even went the extra 9 yards, like the Toyota crew.
Yeah, we put in a bit of an extra push to get up into the front, and now there's big pressure. 1 second behind Hannes, so if he makes the wrong turn, we get through. We've just got to keep it there, and then obviously the guys are coming from everywhere, all sides, and you don't know how the race is going to pan out. But the car's going well, and I'd really like to win at all costs. So that's what we are up there to go and try and achieve.
Then the racers got a traditional Zulu welcome, and the Elephant Coast certainly showed the whole off-road circus a thing or two about hospitality. The Nissan Hluhluwe 400 continues right after this.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, going the extra mile to get you. Asset finance from ABSA, going off the beaten track to find solutions.
With a clock ticking down to start time, proper tension was high as Alfie Cox stormed away from the start line. With 3 loops over 120 odd kilometers each and a 15-minute compulsory stop at the designated service point penciled in. Grobler was 39 seconds behind the specials in 3rd overall, in the ideal position, but Berthold was all over his exhaust pipe. The father and son team, Nick and Ryan Harper, next in the Atlas Copco, with Varayawa and Rousseau all over them in turn. But overnight drizzle had made some parts of the course slippery and very tricky, but once it dried out, Cox was batting along nicely, and he was taking no bull. Hutchison is quick and fearless, and he was pushing hard, but he'd lost a lot of ground to Cox, who was doing some low flying. While Grobler had the Castrol Toyota in his rearview mirror as large as an oil tanker. And with all that pressure, the national champ made a vital mistake and wrong slotted. Houghton picked it up off his race notes, and all of a sudden they were leading the production car class. How quickly things change. For the Harpers, the Hluhluwe route was tailor-made, and their new charge, the big Atlas Copco, enjoyed it and took full advantage. And here's the reason why it's good to win the prologue. If you win it, it means you don't eat dust like this. We'll return Aldridge and Schulthammer were going well but could not drive away from Alberts and Hunter in the Rapsa bat. With Foss and Pitchford still in the top 9 and going hard but conservatively after having passed the Barloworld Armstrong absolute forward of Schroeder and Huxtable. While their teammate Brandon Harkis and John Moore were solid in the third Ford Racing Ranger. But there wasn't time to blink. The De Brains were also chasing hard in their Toyota. Every second counted in this part of the field. For Tollefson and Evans, there was drama as they were hit by a flying special. Let's listen in.
Going left again into 100.
Oh, he hit us.
Going right, going right.
I'm good. I think he hit us.
Has he caused damage or?
No. I just felt something in the rear.
I think he hit us on that corner, to be honest.
No,
okay.
no, later.
100 going left. Here.
Luckily, out of the firing line, it was 2005 champ Terence Marsh and Pieter Groenewald in the top 20 and 10th in class. But having to watch the Besaidnots and then the cries like a hawk behind him. Richard Schilling and his trusty co-driver Chris Davies were still handsomely leading Class S. But the Zermattens Raubi Nissan was just one car caught in the mayhem after Roacon's Peter Ruthven wrong-slotted, reversed and hit Chris Visser's Toyota in the process. Frustration as the precious seconds leaked away. Visser looked for a place to park to assess the damage, found one and pulled off. But that was the end of the road for him. No such troubles for Cox though, as he blasted the motorite back over the dry parts of the course on the way to completing the first loop. It was becoming a drama-filled contest though, as Hutchison and Bergman flattered, but they coolly, calmly and effectively repaired to get going again. ASAP actually. Further ahead, navigator Marcel Trethouille was pretending to be a marshal for the Harpers who'd flown up the order and overtaken everyone, including Cox, who'd broken a gearbox and had to retire. Nearing the end of the first loop, the motorite lads had to do more running repairs before they could set off again, and this time they'd also lost second gear. That was the end of their run too, but both top contenders out within minutes of each other, and in the background, Toyota was still leading the cavalcade. In contrast, for Yawa and Rousseau were having a trouble-free run and were second overall and in class. Krobler in a brand new Nissan Navara was third fastest and second in the production car class. With the Rapsa bat of Alberts and Hunter clocking the third fastest time for Loop 1, one position up from where they started. While the De Brains were also working their way right up the order. Brothers David and Gary White had impressed all and sundry with their big move up the order from 24th. They were up into the top 15 overall. And as Brandon Harker stopped at the level crossing, he must have been hopeful of a good finish after stating that he would use the first few races to feel out the big Ford Ranger. With the sun drying things out, but with that producing dust, Gibson and Brown were taking advantage of the open road ahead of them. And the same went for Terence Marsh and Pieter Groenewald in the National Mobile Regent Racing Gymco. But right behind them, the Cries were applying the pressure. With Gary Gilligan and Peter van Vuren clocking the 6th fastest time for loop number 1. Foss and Pitchford were going smoothly but would soon start experiencing starter motor problems which slowed them dramatically. Schilling and Davies were steady as she goes and up into the top 8 in the specials, but leading Class S by quite a margin. They started 26th in the prologue and 17th in the specials. For the Barkhuizens, things were going swimmingly. But some parts hadn't quite dried out, leaving no traction, and there wasn't a lot of patience out there either. The Western Cape Spares Besaidnout and Johan de Bruin in their Redenko bat were up into the top 12 in the specials and second in Class B. while the Duplessis, Yuri and Andre had also made their way into the top 20 after starting in 33rd place. With BB Auto stablemates Arnold Duplessis and Jan Knox right behind them and chasing like the clappers. The Zermattens were still going well in their Nissan hardbody and nailing some of the slower traffic on the way, Screamer blaring their coming. Unheralded Ramon Besaidnout and co-driver Stefan Locke in a Toyota were shooting up the position log, and all of a sudden they were leading Class D after starting 39th. The deploys, Chris and Christian's orange and black livery, drew an eye or two, and so did their early driving. They'd started off in 56th place and passed a lot of teams, with Brian Martin and Oki Fourie applying pressure in their Castrol Toyota, and Thomas Rundle and Brian Roberts in the Baden Tyres Nissan following suit. An early altercation with a very firm object left Mark Deschlane and Alistair Stubbs' Viper going sideways, and they knew they were beaten.
Yes. You guys okay? Yeah, we're fine. You're right. Yeah.
What did you do this time?
We got caught out by two jumps, and the first one set us up badly. We ended up hitting a hole in the second one, and we did a good bend to the beam on the front of the car. So unfortunately, that's that.
That's off-road racing. Lothar and Owen Rocha were very impressive in their Sandmaster and rode a super fast first lap to overtake a whole bunch of cars. They'd made up 20 places and were still climbing. While Klaus and Fritz Etzel were leading the way for Class E racers Jack Peckham and Lucio Santora in their factory Ford Racing Ranger. Richard Everingham was going well on his own lonesome, with another single-seater racer, Gary Campbell, just happy to see our cameras. He was obviously very lonely. Back at the designated service point stop after one flat-out loop, it was the Atlas Copco of the Harpers back first, with a gap of about 2 minutes over Shamir Varayawa, but there was some serious drama for the leaders in the Castrol Toyota Hilux of Bevan Berthold and Robin Houghton. They stormed home, but just meters from the pits, a ball joint broke. As it was, the engine had overheated after the radiator grids had got clogged. Berthold was still confident, though, at that stage.
Yeah, it's been very nice. It's been the first time we've been able to pass in Nissan outright and then lead for a whole lap. And unfortunately, it looks like a ball joint may have broken, so they're just going to replace that. And we got a lot of grass from following so close to Hannes for quite a long time. So the engine's got a bit hot, so maybe we can get it going again, just try to get a finish. But we're developing, we're on the right road, and I think with a new car, we'll be able to fight these guys nicely now.
For the other crews, there was a lot of heartache and repair work to be done. Some had overheated due to mud getting into engines. Others hit a few trees that jumped out at them, and in Mark Corbett's case, well, there was a mechanical, and the wipers wouldn't listen either.
Oh, so hard. Can you bend them over? Can you not bend over the arm? Yes, you can. Yeah, it's always so deep in there.
Yeah, we've had a few electronic problems in the car. It wouldn't start. We stalled it once, and then once the power just cut. But I think we've got it sorted out now. We should be off quite soon. And then unfortunately the windscreen wipers failed, and there was a whole lot of mud all over the windscreen. I was chasing Brandon, and I didn't see his brake lights, so we bumped him out the way, which I'm sure he won't be pleased about. But other than that, it was going quite well.
Only an off-road racer could have been able to say that. In the Ford camp, Manfred Schroeder was his normal, quiet, effective self.
It's not too bad. This morning, unfortunately, we wrong slotted, and as I turned around, the motor cut again. And we've got a brand new start, a brand new battery in there, but it didn't want to start. So we had to wait for Jack to come, and then he towed us and got going again. And then the last about 40 k's, we broke a front drive shaft. Yeah, so we have to replace that.
And replace it they did. The life of a mechanic in the middle of the African bush on a Saturday afternoon. Back out on the road though, and Nick and son Ryan Harper were enjoying only their second outing in the Atlas Copco. They'd gotten used to it pretty quickly. With Variawa and Rousseau really putting pedal to the metal in an earnest effort to catch the flying turquoise car. Grobler and Jordan were third overall, but leading the production and SP class by more than 3 minutes. However, they were also suffering from overheating problems. And there were clearly no team orders, as the Norwegian mountaineer Tollefson and Evans were chasing as hard as they could in second. Harkis was travelling much lighter after Corbett had got rid of the back half of his car. He was up into third after being 11th at the start of the day. With Fawcett Pitchford battling a balky starter motor, hanging on to fourth after slowing down a little. The evergreen and steady Schilling was doing his usual act, go hard and hang on, and was still leading Class S like he had been from the get-go. And in Class A, Clint Gibson and Mike Brown were up into third place all the way from 7th. The absolute bat was still sounding great. Alberts and Hunter were on their way to a fast clocking in the second lap, which got them ever closer to the top 3. That's what they were shooting for. Gillingham and Van Vieren wrong slotted here, but they were still putting together a fine lap. However, the wrong slot cost them a place to the Flying White brothers. The Cries, who impressed so much last year, had moved up 6 places and were leading Class B in their bat. The father and son combination picked up where they left off in 06. The De Bruins, Hichu and Jaap and their McLaren XL Toyota could not believe their SP speed, but mechanical failure would put paid to their efforts. While the Adenko bat of Bez Besaidnout and Johan de Bruin was solid in 10th in the space frame race and second in Class B. But the dust was starting to get up everyone's nose. The Etzels were still going well in their bat, but would have their own problems soon enough, as did many of the field. By now, 30% had called it quits already. Rowicon's George and Sharon Barkhuizen were leading Class E by a huge margin of 20 minutes and still pulling away. The Toyota was in fine shape. Walter du Plessis was the Lone Ranger in the Maxi Mag, and small as it is, it was clear to see why they call it that. It just gets the job done. He was nailing some big names on the way in. The du Plessis were throwing around their BB Autoness and hard body with abandon, and doing so very effectively. They were up into third in Class D. Herman Silwald's Zarko Magnum gave him trouble from the word go after losing brake pads, and then with something amiss in the car's handling, they abruptly stopped. Besaidnout and Locke with some extra baggage in tow steamed by, but then had to turn when they realized that they'd wrong slotted. Still, it was a great drive from the newcomers.
Popped something.
I don't know, we just all of a sudden was losing fire. Something electrical is not sure what it is.
And with the competitors stringing by, the Silwalds had to call it a day too. Rowicon's Louw de Bruin and his co-pilot Rudy Brits were up all the way from 48th and into the top 20. One heck of a drive. While Gosler and Carolyn were enjoying themselves immensely, they were having a trouble-free run at the finish line, except perhaps for this wrong read here. And that gave the Bozel Truggy of Gil Nel and Sandra Leviskachny the chance to close the gap. The Rochers were on the way, it seems, to finishing the Nissan Hluhluwe 400 and beating some really big names in the process. But there were still some mountains to climb. The Castrol Toyota with occupants Brian Martin and Okkie Fourie were up into the top 10 in the production car class and second in Class E. The Kobus van Tonder Rian Guapa piloted Unifreight Pajero had also shot up the standings. They were 45th in the morning, but now they were 11th in the production car class and second in Category E. While Campbell just kept steaming along. At the last compulsory stop with one more lap to go, it was the Harpers who were grinding down the competition, with Variawa now less than 2 minutes down. The Atlas Copco pit was filled with quiet optimism, but they knew there was still a lion's share of work to be done.
Look, it's hard work, and I've got the guys right on my tail, but we're in the lead at the moment, keeping it smooth. I see Shamir was closing on me now. We didn't want to push it too hard in case we got a puncture, but we're going to push it from now until the end, so we'll see what happens. Other than that, the car's going very well. Ryan's nabbing, he's on the ball, he hasn't made one mistake, and it's going great so far.
And the bat was just chugging along, asking for more. In the Nissan pits, Glenn Hall knew that his crew was hot. Why else this call?
Fire extinguisher over here. Over there. Over here.
And they were, but not that way. But listen in here to the effective communication. No words wasted, just the right info.
I stalled the car. We lost about a minute. The car didn't want to start, but just try it.
We're going to have to wash the radiator, guys. So we can get Albert, just bring a dry rag.
Grobler was as always jovial and even in the heat of battle, approachable.
Hannes, how's it looking out there?
No, good. It was dusty this morning, going well. And we had to stop to get all the mud out of the radiator. No, I didn't. We had to stop to get the mud out of the radiator. Starting running a bit hot, so we lost probably 2 minutes or a bit more, but it was worthwhile stopping it because the car was running cooler when we finished there.
Guess that means things were cool. For the Norwegian Tollefsen, it was all about time.
Enjoying it?
Yes, it's getting better.
Good.
Hasn't Hannes left yet?
No, he's 3 minutes ahead of you, 3.5. They had to stop to clean the mud from the radiator.
What about Duncan?
Duncan went off, he's another 6 minutes behind.
So we're not doing too bad then?
Indeed, for Brandon Harkis and Jean Moore in the SP Ford Racing Ranger, there was some smashing to be done. But he was having a smashing drive, too.
No, it's going well. Unfortunately, we had a puncture early on in the morning, which is never good. A whole bunch of guys got past us again. But I've really just been on the hammer all day. And to catch up to second or third place now, a little bit behind Tollefsen. So I've got this third lap to really push. I need to get past him as soon as possible and see if I can put some pressure on Hannes. Obviously, that's what I need to do.
And the muscles were being severely strained in the Ford camp. For Roacon, the Barkhuizens were putting together an amazing race and, in the process, upstaging several of the factory teams and their cars. But it was tough out there.
Yeah, it's quite rough. You know, I thought it's going to be smooth and open, but it's tight and quite rough. Long way, eh? It's 280 k's. It's quite a bit.
But you're going well.
Yeah, no problems. Just someone hitting the side. No problems, everything is going well.
The Duplessis had a litany of problems. No wipers, an exhaust manifold came loose, and to exacerbate things, a side shaft broke on the second loop, which was what they were repairing so hastily. In the Ford camp, Jack Peckham had to sort out a few problems as well, but they seemed to have things nicely under control.
How's it looking out there? Yeah, all right. We're playing a bit of catch-up though. We've had a problem, so we're coming from the back now. What has the problem been? Yeah, we just had a problem with our slave cylinder on the clutch. So we had to change that after the first lap and wasted a bit of time. We didn't have clutch for half the first lap, so but we We're confident we'll catch up now.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Overcoming all finance from ABSA. Going the extra mile to get you financed.
On to the third and final lap of the Nissan Hluhluwe 400, and it was the two-time winners Nick and son Ryan Harper who were setting the pace at the front. Variawa and Rousseau, however, were pressurizing them all the way and were closing the gap. The total porter was more than happy to oblige, and the race was on. Third overall and firmly in control in the production car class, it was four-time champion Hannes Hluhluwe. The burly 51-year-old is like good wine. The older he gets, the better he gets. But Tollefson was desperately trying to close the gap between himself and the number one man in the Nissan team, but to no avail. The gap stayed at 3.5 minutes. Who won in Darling in 2006, has only had the Ford Ranger for 2 races, but seemed to find out how to make it go quickly very fast indeed. He was third, less than 4 minutes behind Hluhluwe and only 18 seconds behind the Norwegian. Third in the space frame vehicles, it was Clint Gibson and Mike Brown who were themselves doing a giant killing act. A fine performance and only 13 minutes down on the lead. The Rapsa bat of Nardis Alberts and Colin Hunter itself was performing well, except for a pesky oil light that would not go off, full of oil or not, so they ignored it and raced on. The Cries themselves had put away a few big scalps and on lap 3 clocked a blistering time. They were leading Class B by a massive 28 minutes. Duncan Foss next drove into our viewfinders, and were it not for that starter motor and stalling the car twice, they would have been within striking distance, if not leading. The whites were literally flying, while Gillingham and Van Vieren got things sideways, including the advertising. Schilling and Davies were next, 12th overall after a stunning drive from virtually the back of the field. Marsh and Groenewald's Jimco was tagging along second in class to the Plastotech Raceco and only 6 minutes down. With Besaidnout and De Bruin second in Class B. They were in turn 12 minutes ahead of the Besaidnouts Johan and Etienne in the second Adenko bat. In Class E, the Barkhazens, George and his better half Sharon were leading by almost 40 minutes and just had to keep the Toyota on the road to get the win. While Ramon Besaidnout and Stefan Locke in their Toyota gained valuable manufacturers' points for their team by leading the way home in Class D, they had a 10-minute time gap. For Mark Corbett and Rudy Balzar, this became an unexpected game drive. Quite some speed this fellow has. Harold and Tion Kun in their Land Rover probably had the drive of the day, from 44th on the starting grid to 8th in the production class. with the Duplessis pushing them all the way, just 2.5 minutes behind them. Martin and Fourie were next, second in Class E, but quite a long way back. While Van Tonde and Guapa had got Rent-A-Crowd to do some vocals for them on the way into 11th place in the production and third in Class E. The Niemands, Gerard and Zelda here taking the opportunity to pass by in Class B. And that corner had caught quite a few victims. Manfred Schroeder and co-Ward Huxtable are masters at saving their car and getting it to the line, and they again did it right in Hluhluwe. They were 6th in class. Gosler and Carolyn also did a fine job of getting their Kopenhagen Hotel racecoat to the finish and looked quite clean. And one for the single-seaters as Gary Campbell brought it home in 17th place in the specials. Gavin Gray and Mark Sarua and their Nissan took the second to last finisher's spot. With Jack Peckham and Lucio Santoro piloting the Ford Racing Ranger to 4th in Class E after a solid last loop. But at the line, it was applause for the Harpers, who were spectacular yet even-tempoed as they crossed the finish line in 6 hours and 23 minutes of racing. They clocked their fastest lap of the day on the final loop of the course.
What's the working? Well done, boys. Champion, buddy. Champion, champion, champion.
With Varjawa having given it his all on the last lap, clocking the fastest time of the day by almost 4 minutes. But it wasn't enough. He had to settle for second. Krobler thought they'd flattered 6 Ks from the finish, only to discover that they'd actually completely lost a wheel. A testament to the toughness of the Nissan Navara.
Look, we didn't start first. I think we pulled off 5th, and we had two buckies between us and the motor ride team, which is Alfie and Evan. So my first concern was to get past those buckies. Lucky enough, they wrong slotted early, and I quickly nipped in front of them. And then I just started chasing hard. And it wasn't long until I was in Evan's dust and pushed him. And it looks like both of them had gearbox problems. So we went to the front and we stayed in front. Shamir was giving me a hard time from behind. At the same time, I didn't want to push too hard because we would have got a puncture. So I took it easy on the second lap. The last lap, we pushed hard. And here we are. You know, we got a good result for Atlas Copco. I'm very happy. Bat Racing and Kartsec. It's great for us, you know.
Krobler celebrated his 22nd national championship race win in 50 starts since 2001.
Well, on the first lap, we overshot a turn. We were leading the SP class and overshot, and the other guys were close by, and they got in front of us, and then we had to battle in the dust, you know. But in off-road racing, you just have to wait, you know, and let somebody else make a mistake, and then you lead again, you know, and that's basically what we did, you know. And after the first lap, we had quite a clean run. The car was very dirty because of all the mud. Couldn't see through the corners on the side windows, and we couldn't see the mirrors as well. But they cleaned it after the first lap. The guys rebuilt the car in between the first and the second race now, and we were very, very happy with the performance of the car. The new suspension works very, very well. On the last lap, as you saw we came in with 3 wheels. I don't know what happened. We'll still talk about it. And but luckily we got to the end, and it was only 6 kilos that we drove on the 3 wheels, and we're very, very happy to win the SP class and the production class.
Harkus found his feet with the Ford Racing Ranger in the Zulu Kingdom and took third, just 3.5 minutes down.
It's been a great race, eh? Like I said, with 1 lap to go. The Nissans really made us work hard, but a great result for Ford. I know that Neil and Manfred had a bad day, but for me, it was a good day. I'm happy with third. somebody had offered me third place before this. It fitted into my plans nicely, so I'm extremely happy with that. And thank you very much to my team, firstly, for giving me the opportunity and putting their faith in my abilities, you know. And this is a great start for me for the championship. I now last second, and like I said before, you know, we can get to the middle of the year and see where we are. But this car is unbelievable. I could do another 3 laps with it, and you know, I've hit things that should have taken all 4 wheels off. But it's been a great day. Thanks to my navigator Jean. He's done a great job, and to all my support crew. You know, to see them out there and waving forward flags is lovely. It's great for the brand.
For the Bokhuisens, who had a maiden win last year, win number 2 was even sweeter here in Hluhluwe. We wanted to know, were they ready for even bigger things?
Well, we're going to try. We obviously had hassles in Cape Town. We didn't finish that race. So it's good to get points here. And full points is the best way to go. I think there's not a lot of guys that's finished today. It seems like it's taken quite a toll on the cars. So yeah, maybe I'll catch up to the guys in front.
A second consecutive win for Hluhluwe in his 07 championship quest, but only 15 cars finished in the production car class, a testimony to a tough race. Tollefson and Evans impressed in second. And a 14-second victory for the Harpers, with Variawa and Rousseau probably wishing that the race was a little longer. In the specials, only 19 cars made it to the line, a real race of attrition. Until next time you keep it on the road, we'll keep it off-road.
That was the ultimate test, the ABSA Off-Road Championship. Now fast track your